From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Good morning, Tar Heels. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sarah Gray Barr.
And I'm Julian Berger. Let's go right to our top story. Halfway around the world, Ukraine is continuing to hold onto its independence, even as Russian attacks escalate. And here in the Triangle, protests and vigils have taken place in support of the Ukrainian people. This is all in response to Russia's invasion of its neighbor to the south, which UNC political science professor Graham Robertson says is part of Russian President Vladimir Putin's effort to regain territory it lost during the Soviet collapse.
Russia has been for many years now very unhappy with the way security is dealt with in Europe, and in particular with the expansion of NATO towards Russia's borders. And so the Russian government has been complaining about this for about 14 years at this point. And NATO had done nothing to change its behavior. It just kept expanding and expanding and expanding and bringing in new members. And so part of the thinking...
The events in Ukraine have hit close to home for some members of the Carolina community. Here to tell us more is Carolina Week's Capitol reporter, Stephen Schlink. Stephen?
Julian and Sarah Gray, imagine watching this all unfold while knowing your family is in Ukraine experiencing this firsthand. That's the reality for some students here on campus, and I sat down with 3 of them to hear their stories. Videos of explosions and helicopters firing on Ukraine have become a familiar sight as Russia invades. But it hits home for several students at UNC.
My immediate family is there, which is my mother, my father, and my grandmother, including my godmother and my nephew.
In fact, all my family is back in Ukraine. My mom is in Dnipro. I also have family, my dad, my half-siblings in Kiev.
My family is still in Ukraine. My dad is on the front. My mom lives in our hometown. I live in a small town of 80,000 people in the western part of Ukraine.
On the ground, communication is not a guarantee.
Obviously, I can't call my dad. I can't message with my dad because it's his safety issues.
I lost connection to my dad today at night. I'm hoping they're okay. And I know they're ready for this.
Just walk me through for you, how is it being in America and just watching this unfold on TV, knowing that your family's on the ground there?
All I can do is help with information that I gather around the world.
This is what my little brother made for me when he was 6. And I'm looking at the things, and I'm connected to them.
Escaping Ukraine is also an issue for some.
Only children and women were allowed to cross the border because they already issued an act that men from 18 to 60 years old, they are not allowed to flee from Ukraine.
So what can we do at home to help in Ukraine?
You can show up to our events, which happen all around the United States.
Share that information, stay active on social media, help financially if you're abroad. That's what I'm doing right now.
I'm thankful for everybody who's already helping us, and I'm also asking for people to keep spreading the word. Colder state representatives.
The word seems to be the overwhelming message in all of this. And UNC professor Joe Chbosky will be hosting a fundraiser for Rezone Ukraine, which is a nonprofit that supports the Ukrainian people. This will be held tomorrow from noon until 2 p.m. in front of the Reese Innovation Lab on Franklin Street. Reporting live, Stephen Schlink, Carolina Week.
In the midst of European conflict, UNC is warning students about potential cyber attacks from Russia. The university sent out a mass email to students Friday stating security experts predict cyber attacks against U.S. institutions. UNC says you need to be cautious of emails asking for your onion or emails asking you to confirm your account status within 24 hours. If you suspect something, click on the report message button on your email.
Turning now to the latest on coronavirus, Orange County has just announced it is dropping the mask mandate next week. So does this mean we'll be able to ditch the masks here at UNC? Reporter Kasia Sari has some answers.
UNC officials have said they'll follow Orange County's lead when it comes to the mask mandate. And Orange County says on Monday, March 7th, they will lift the indoor mask requirement. This means that in indoor campus settings, like classrooms, masks will be optional. But masks may still be required in some high-risk settings, like medical offices and research labs. Other UNC system schools, like NC State and UNC Charlotte, are also lifting their mask restrictions on Monday. This will be the first time that UNC students have been allowed to attend class mask-free since the pandemic began in March 2020. In Chapel Hill, Kasia Sari, Carolina Week.
Spring break is right around the corner, but even though COVID mandates are dropping nationwide, there are still some rules you should know about. The CDC's new COVID-19 recommendations do not change current travel requirements. You are still required to wear masks on public transportation, including airplanes, regardless of vaccination status. If you are traveling by air this spring, check if the airline and destination have any testing, vaccination, or quarantine requirements. If you're traveling out of the country, you will need a negative rapid test within 72 hours of your flight in order to come back to the United States. If you are not a US citizen or do not have an immigrant visa, you will need proof of full vaccination status before traveling back to the United States. Find out your destination's COVID-19 restrictions at travel.state.gov.
The university declared a mental health crisis on campus after several suicides last semester. Now, the executive branch of student government is hosting a mental health conference for all UNC students. Head to Manning Hall tomorrow at 5 to join UNC students in a discussion on intersectionality and mental health. UNC Public Health Professor Ed Fisher will lead the conversation as the keynote speaker.
UNC student government recently held its elections for student body president, as well as undergraduate senate. I sat down with one of the senator-elects of District 1 to hear what this new position means for her. America Juarez Maldonado is a junior at UNC studying environmental studies and public policy. On February 17th, she won a seat on the undergraduate senate for the next academic year.
Even though I'm also fairly new to student government, I feel like we have so much potential and we have to make student government a lot more open to students.
America realized the lack of Latinx representation on the Senate, a big reason for her running.
And I was just like, okay, but who do we not have no representation within student government? And then I looked and I was like, wait, what? I'm like, this is not, I was like, you're lying. How is this possible? Like how?
Her passion for public service started years before attending UNC, in her hometown of Durham, North Carolina. But her work quickly ramped up, stepping foot on UNC's.
Recognize that like where I come from is like low resource and not as privileged.
America began creating change with organizations like Student Action with Farm Workers, Poder NC Action, and most recently, serves as the co-president for Mi Pueblo.
It's been such an amazing experience so far. Like, I think, again, here I go in circles, right? Where it's like providing this type of space and comfort, but also like resources that I feel like is so needed within like our comunidad and with students in general.
And her future is looking very bright.
My hopes really is to just, if I do ever, reach that point where I'm like a politician, if I become like a House representative, a senator, maybe a president, I hope to create like a stability.
America, as well as the other members of student government, will be sworn in April.
A UNC Board of Trustees member spoke up in a student-led candidate debate, and now student body president Lamar Richards is calling for that board member's removal. Richards sent a complaint to the UNC system president and chair of the UNC Board of Governors, alleging trustee Marty Codis interfered in an online debate between candidates for student body president in early February. Just 2 weeks before the debate, Board of Trustee Chairman David Boliak advised the board to stay out of student government elections. Richards said he received multiple complaints from attendees and candidates, agreeing that CODIS's presence and questions were inappropriate and prevented candidates from debating free of board influence. CODIS said he feels like Richards' comments have no merit.
I think this attack on me, I believe, likely because of my party affiliation, is unjustified, and certainly removal of me would be an outrageous request as well.
Richards declined to comment, but his official statement to the governance committees asked for CODIS's removal from the Board of Trustees.
Vice President Kamala Harris is headed to Durham this morning to talk about job creation. Harris and Labor Secretary Marty Walsh will be discussing the Biden administration's plan to invest in creating good-paying union jobs. The visit comes after the White House task force issued a report with 70 proposals that would make it easier for federal workers to unionize. This is Harris's first visit to North Carolina since December of last year. President Biden has nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson to succeed Justice Stephen Breyer on the Supreme Court. This nomination fulfilled his campaign promise to nominate a Black woman to the bench, and if confirmed, Jackson would become the first Black woman to serve on the court. Jackson is a well-regarded judge for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, who attended both Harvard and Harvard Law School. At 51, she would be the second youngest justice on the court, following Judge Amy Coney Barrett, who just turned 50 this year. We asked UNC law experts what they thought about the nomination.
For a Supreme Court, it's important that you have people with different experiences and from different kinds of backgrounds, because lived experience can certainly influence the way that one looks at facts in a case and the application of the law.
The Supreme Court has been hearing cases for over 230 years. And in that time, we've had 115 justices. 6 of them have been women. So Judge Jackson would be the 6th woman if appointed. She would be the 4th person of color and the 1st Black woman on the court. So all told, that makes this a historic and monumental announcement.
Jackson will need a simple majority in the Senate in order to secure confirmation.
A new North Carolina law is significantly changing how students can access birth control. I spoke to several experts and state officials who say the new changes will especially help those with limited access to health care. UNC students will soon be able to make a trip to the pharmacy, like the one in the student store or in Campus Health behind me, to pick up birth control without a doctor's prescription. In February, House Bill 96 went into effect. Right now, pharmacies are waiting on orders from the state health medical director to allow these contraceptives to be dispensed. But according to Campus Health Director of Pharmacy and Professional Services, Amy Sauls, those orders may be coming in earlier than expected.
We weren't quite sure if it was going to take, months to get that state medical director order, but now we're thinking it could look more like weeks.
The healthcare bill allows pharmacists to provide some forms of hormonal birth control after providing a consultation to patients and meeting certain immunization qualifications. The North Carolina Director of Public Affairs for Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, Jillian Riley, says the law strengthens the reproductive rights of an individual.
This law makes it easier for folks to get the self-administered birth control method of their choice. And it reduces many barriers for folks across the state.
Barriers like a lack of accessibility to doctors. State Senator Jim Burgeon is one of the bill's sponsors and says that the bill helps women in rural areas.
Out of 100 counties, all 100 counties have at least one pharmacy. Most have multiple pharmacies in it. So if I make it so that a woman can go to a pharmacy, not have to go to a doctor, not have to get a prescription, but they'll be able to get any of the hormonal contraceptives.
Besides giving better access to contraceptives, the expansive healthcare bill also includes nicotine replacement therapy, HIV prevention medication, and glucagon to treat severe hypoglycemia. Reporting in Chapel Hill, Sarah Gray Barr, Carolina.
The final touches are being made to the Hussman School's new 13,000 square foot of the art media center. The lower level of the 3-story brick and glass building houses a high-tech broadcast studio and makerspace, a dedicated home for Fashion Mash students at Carolina. Right above is a glass wall podcast studio, and within each floor, students and faculty will have classrooms that can accommodate a mix of lecture-based and active learning experiences. The center will also house opportunities for UNC athletics in the ACC network. And thanks to the Renewable Energy Special Projects Committee, the rooftop will have solar power panels. Dr. Charles Tuggle, the Senior Associate Dean at the Hussman School, says the building is a big step forward for the university.
I guess the big thing is we wanted to say journalism is not dead, not at all. Take a look at what we're doing, take a look at how we're doing it and how exciting and how cutting edge it is. And we think that, we're already bursting at the seams in terms of enrollment, and I think it's going to grow.
The Curtis Media Center is made possible by a $10 million gift from the Curtis Foundation, the second largest single gift in the school's history. Turning now to weather, March has gotten off to a sunny start. The Chapel Hill area is experiencing above average temperatures.
But it's expected to get even warmer in the coming days. We may be flirting with the 80 degrees by the weekend. Let's check in now with meteorologist Joey Bianconi about how long these above average temperatures will last.
Thank you guys and good morning. And we do have some breaking weather news. In collaboration, NOAA and NASA launched a new weather satellite yesterday, the first day of meteorological spring. GHOST-T, sitting in orbit over the Western Hemisphere right now, which does include us here in Chapel Hill, which is why this is so exciting, because it's going to drastically improve weather forecasting and prediction for our area. We're going to be getting images from this satellite with 4 times the resolution of what we've previously seen. So things like tornadoes, severe weather, fire weather, space weather, anything you can think of are going to be improved. And it's just launched in time for the springtime, which is our severe weather season. So I'm very excited to utilize the data from this satellite, but we don't have it just quite yet. We're still using the old satellites. So we're going to predict off those ones right now. 66 degrees right now at 12 o'clock. And we're going to increase into the lower 70s for your high today around 4 o'clock. And the trend's going to continue throughout most of your next week here. 76 on Thursday. We're going to drop back down into the 50s for Friday just briefly. But in time for the weekend, we're going to rise back up into the 70s. You see here 72 on Saturday, 78 on Sunday. And look at that, 80 degrees on Monday. Very excited for that. So get outdoors. And I know I'm going on a hike this weekend, so hope you guys do too. Back to you.
The weather is starting to warm up and Carolina basketball is heating up for the home stretch. Let's go now to Sports Extra anchor Jacob Karabatsas for all things Carolina athletics.
It was a gorgeous day on Monday for the Tar Heels' last home game of the season. While it was sunny outside, it was raining threes inside the Smith Center. The Tar Heels are trying to remain in the hunt to be first 4 in March, and it was senior night. Seniors Ryan McAdoo, Leaky Black, and graduate transfer Brady Manick were honored pre-game. Jumping to late in the second half, guard Caleb Love hit a bunch of clutch shots, including this three-pointer to put the Heels up by 1. A few moments later, he would hit another three-pointer to put the Heels up by 2, and he did not stop there. In overtime, he hit yet another clutch bucket to put the Heels up by 5. Following this, he went to the cup for a dagger and 1 to put the Orange away. Carolina defeated Syracuse 88-79 in a tense back-and-forth game the Heels needed desperately. What a great way for the seniors to go out in their final game at the Dean Dome. Former Tar Heel All-American and national champion Eric Montross now has a scholarship in his name for the center position at UNC. The scholarship will go to a Tar Heels center each school year. Montross totaled 1,627 points, 941 rebounds, and 169 block shots during his career for Dean Smith in 1990 to 1994. Despite a tough loss to ECU on Sunday, the UNC baseball team pulled out a dominant win against Longwood University last night, 16-1. The Heels took the lead early with this homer from Vance Honeycutt, who was a huge factor. Tomas Frick had a grand slam in the 6th inning where UNC scored 8 runs. Almost the whole lineup crossed home plate in a dominating 16-1 win. Thursday, the 7-1 Diamond Heels will face off against Winthrop University in Boshamer Stadium, where they're undefeated on the season.
But I reminded them if they want to reach their goals, they have to. Doesn't mean you're going to play. I told them today, you're not going to necessarily play well every game, but you can be ready to play every game. And that's one thing we want to take a lot of pride in, is being ready to play.
Coming off an 8-1 loss against UGA on Saturday, the North Carolina softball team looked for redemption against number 19 Michigan Tuesday evening. The Wolverines took the lead in the second inning, plating their fourth run with this sac fly to deep center. Michigan got 4 more in the top of the fifth inning, earning the 8-0 victory. Carolina will be back in action at Anderson Field at 5 to host Villanova. Through day 2 of the Darius Rucker Intercollegiate, women's golf improved their score by 5 strokes. Shooting 13 over par, the Heels find themselves in 15th place heading into the final day of competition. Individually for the Heels, Kayla Smith is tied for 24th after a 74 on day 2. Carolina looks to improve today as the Heels wrap up play in Hilton Head. Spring sports are still grinding out wins, but football is looking to do some reconfiguring. Less than a day after it was announced that offensive line coach Stacey Searles would be heading to Georgia, Mack Brown filled the vacancy. Current Louisville offensive line coach Jack Bicknell will be taking over in the role next year. Bicknell has an impressive resume as an offensive line coach, having worked at huge schools like Auburn and Ole Miss and NFL teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully, a new face on the coaching staff can help fix some of our woes from last year. Bicknell will report to Carolina this spring. That does it for sports. Tune in Friday for a full weekend preview in Carolina athletics.
Thanks, Jacob. The Meantime Coffee Company, UNC's student-run coffee shop, invited students to share their talents at Open Mic Night. Students performed their written and musical work in the Anne Queen Lounge of the Campus Y last week. Meantime opened the event to anyone who wanted to perform and stayed open late so people could order drinks. Organizers say they hope to hold another Open Mic Night again soon.
Launched in fall 2020, the Student Learning to Advance Truth and Equity is an initiative that's led by the Institute of African American Research to engage undergraduate students in understanding race, racism, and racial equity.
This semester, they sponsored Beyond the Roots, an upcoming one-woman show written by UNC senior Imani Williams. Reporter Makayla Williams takes the story.
Engaging in activism can take place in so many ways. For UNC senior Imani Williams, she's always chosen to engage through the use of words.
And most of all, I've been motivated. I've been motivated to speak up and stand up because the world is calling on each and every one of us.
Williams has always considered herself an activist, but in recent years, her activism has been at a peak.
And I had to ask myself, why? Why was it that Black women, violence on Black women?
Beyond the Roots, Williams' upcoming performance will serve as another opportunity for her to engage in activism as she educates the audience on her experience of growing up Black in America.
So my performance is called Beyond the Roots, and it's an autoethnographic exploration of my life of basically growing up as a Black woman in America. And it really pushes or wants to show kind of like the reality of being Black in America and how it's two totally different conversations that you go on to live throughout like life and also like reality.
Williams described Beyond the Roots as a portrayal of her journey to not only choose activism, but also to choose her Blackness. She encourages anyone interested in creating a more equitable society to come out and watch.
My story isn't like everyone's, but I do think that there are systems and there's definitely some similarities that I think can be brought up in the Black experience.
Williams says if you want to get conversations going, this is the place to do it. In Chapel Hill, Makayla Williams, Carolina Week.
Beyond the Roots will be performed March 4th and March 5th at 7:30 p.m., March 6th at 3 p.m., and March 7th at 5 p.m. at the Black Box Theater in Swain Hall. Tickets are $10 for general admission and $5 for UNC students.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
We leave you now with pictures from the rally at the state capitol in support of Ukraine.